Welcome to Built, Trusted, Chosen, the podcast for leaders and marketers in trades and construction, hosted by Wes Towers from Uplift 360.
Okay, hi there, Aaron. Welcome to the show, Built, Trusted, Chosen. If you could just tell the audience a little bit about your background and who you are, we'll unpack it as we progress. But just to set the foundation, let us know what you're up to these days.
Sure, absolutely. And, thank you very much for having me on. Appreciate you having me on the show to, talk about kind of everything that's going on with marketing and maybe touch on AI these days. But yeah, my background, actually way back 2006, I started in solar back then. And I was in the solar industry for a number of years. And then the, financial crisis of 2007 and 8 hit. Got laid off. That was a bizarre experience in my 20s. Kind of bounced around for a while, and mostly in the energy efficiency space. Started some other businesses, and then ended up starting my previous business, Balanced Comfort, in 2012. And back then we were doing home energy audits, energy assessments. We were really trying to figure out why a house was not working properly. And we're here in Fresno, California. So we don't have very severe winters, but we have pretty brutal summers. And so if we don't have 25 days over 100 degrees, it's a bizarre summer for us. And so we get pretty warm. And so I actually had that business for a while, started to grow it. And then in 2017, I had an opportunity to get an installation contractor's license. So we added installation work to the business at that time. And then we started doing some work for a weatherization program through the local utility. And then 2020 hit. So 2019, things really started to take off. I'm thinking that 2020 is going to be a banner year. We're going to just get out there and crush it. And then you start to hear things happening in China of, the flu going around and it being a real problem. Well, we had gone through SARS before and you don't think too much of it. And then all of a sudden, March of that year, everything shuts down, 2020. And so we actually, at the time, we were doing quite a bit of work through the weatherization program. We had 25 employees and everything came to a standstill because that program said, we don't want you in people's homes. I mean, understandably, right? They didn't want to take on the liability and certainly we didn't want employees or customers getting sick. So we pivoted at that point in time, and we were not doing HVAC prior to March of 2020. And we actually decided, okay, well, this is an essential service and these people can still operate. I didn't want to lay everyone off at that time. I wanted to continue the business and figure out a way to keep moving forward. And so we pivoted into HVAC. And that was a pretty neat experience. Between March and April, we essentially launched the air conditioning division of Balanced Comfort, and it started growing very quickly. It was a pretty wild ride. So we grew HVAC. Weatherization eventually came back in 2020. We added plumbing in 2021. And then a year after that, we added restoration to the business. And so we grew very quickly. We were actually on Inc. 5000 4 years in a row. Our peak position was number 511. And so anyone that's growing a business very fast, I can empathize with them and some of the challenges that come up that you didn't expect or didn't even know those were challenges, and all the things that you run into along the way. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's my background there.
Yeah. Well, a brilliant background with all the obviously the trade related work to set yourself up, and obviously growing really fast and solidly with getting recognized for that. It sort of set you up for understanding how to grow a business and marketing and so on. So what do you think some of the key learnings were back then for growth that accelerated your growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've always been very interested in and focused on marketing. Um, it's always been something that's really fun to me, something that I really enjoy playing with, dealing with, learning about. And so our business always had a very tight focus on marketing, um, really looking at what opportunities we could take on. At the same time, for my business, I knew that I could not be the guy in the truck. I wasn't going to be the guy going out to diagnose systems, installing systems, repairing systems. And so right from the very beginning, my first hire was a technician that was also interested in doing install so that I could focus on the actual office
Yeah,
and or the admin side. And that's the most common challenge I see when people get started. They want to start a business, but they're really just starting a job. And
yeah,
they're being a technician role for themselves in their business, and then they get trapped because growing
yeah,
out of that is really once you fall into that trap, growing out of it is very challenging.
yeah, yeah. So we start with a skill set, and we use that skill set. That's why we got into typically a founder-led business will have some form of trade or skill and take that to market, and so they know how to do the work. So they do the work, and so yeah, as you say, you can get trapped in there, and it limits your capacity for growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just having you always just had the vision to expand to be something bigger, or what was it? Was it your intention from the outset to grow something substantial?
No, I did not anticipate growing as quickly as we did. It was
Hmm.
more growing out of necessity and
Yeah,
to reach the market that we saw in front of us. And
yeah,
we would, we would plan for, okay, here's how much we want to grow, and then we would exceed those targets, and then it would just keep going. So it was, like I said, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that from day one, there was an understanding that we were going to bring people in to be out in the field as opposed to trying to be out in the field myself. I
yeah.
think that's a big difference that I see from a lot of other companies getting started.
I'm going to try moving my camera because the sun's just come up and we
It gets
hit the
wild.
lens here. I'm looking like I'm, you know, it's not great, but it's better. Sorry about that,
Oh, yeah.
audience. It's the just the sun has moved, to the window point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's and moving into the marketing that you do these days, and obviously that world. So you had some transition times out of necessity sometimes, but opportunities as well in the trades field, and to be able to pivot. Everyone was talking about pivoting back then in COVID times, but you've had pivots along the journey as well, and so and now taking those learnings into a marketing standpoint, and obviously marketing is um, transforming as well with AI. How's that all going for you these days?
I I'm probably having too much fun with it, quite frankly. It's
Yeah,
very exciting. I mean, there are so many things that I have not been able to do before because I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer, right? I don't
yeah,
not going to sit down and learn Python um, or anything like that. But the capabilities that anyone has now by spending time with the AI tools that are really inexpensive and widely available, um, it gives you almost an unlimited opportunity to build, develop, create, unlike that we've ever had before. Uh,
yeah,
so it's a very exciting time, and we talked about pivoting. I mean, we're seeing so many things change so quickly right now, and you know you've got to adapt to a new platform or software pretty quickly. It seems like every 2 weeks there's something new that I'm thinking, okay,
yeah,
well, I got to learn this now. How am I going to handle
yeah,
that? But
yeah, yeah. It's a challenge. I mean, sometimes. it's there's just so many opportunities. It's hard to pick which ones you're going to pursue. And there's so many shiny objects out there right now, and they're legitimately beneficial, most of them. But knowing what to apply and when to apply it, and having that expertise, people need guidance in all that kind of stuff. What do you see are the biggest mistakes these days, given the landscape? And I mean, we've got an abundance of information out there because it can be produced at the click of a button. And we don't even know if it's legitimately written by a person, if it's just produced by AI, if anyone's even proofread it or checked it in the information we can see, and even videos. There's so much that could be produced with AI. And it feels as though trust is eroded. How do we cut through that noise? And what are the key things, the key levers we can pull to create a great outcome?
Yeah, no, that is a critical question right now, and one that everyone needs to be paying attention to, and how trust is eroding because you know whether someone has experienced it or not, they're already feeling the effects of that.
Mm.
I responded to a guy earlier today that the email he had sent out was clearly automated, and it was a automated sender. It wasn't even his email address as the sender, and so he sent out an email to a group of people. We were at a networking event yesterday, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but you could just tell that it wasn't him writing it, and it just
Yeah.
doesn't give you the same impression. And so
Mm.
I think it's important that we don't just let automation and or AI take over completely. Um, the human interaction is still a critical element to our business and to building relationships. There
Yeah.
are definitely things that AI can assist with, but if you're going to be putting content out there, you need to review what it is before you hit send at, at least
Yeah.
one time, you know,
Yes.
um,
Yeah, absolutely.
because once the cat's out of the bag, the excuse of, oh, AI wrote that. No, that doesn't work. You put that out as if you published that, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's really important for people to take ownership of whatever AI content they're generating, like if it was their own. And I think there's some loss of responsibility there because you're thinking, well, Gemini wrote it for me, so therefore it must be, whatever, that can be a dangerous road to take. But I think the other trap that's concerning is for you to go on ChatGPT or Gemini or whichever AI you prefer and converse with it, ask it questions. Well, what should I do about this? If you don't have a basis or knowledge in that subject and you're just relying on Chat or Gemini to be the expert, um, it may give you garbage and you won't know the difference. You
Yeah.
won't be able to tell if what it's recommending to you is actually the best option. Um,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah, it
so
presents so authoritatively, doesn't it? And it could be just making stuff up.
yeah,
So we still need to be experts in our fields for sure, and to check over things before they go out, as you say. It's exciting and terrifying times, really. So, I mean, you work with a lot of local tradespeople. We call them tradies here in Australia. So
yeah, sure.
your plumber, your electrician, your roofer, whatever it is, painter. Um, what are some of the best strategies for them as a sometimes a really tiny business, a small business? What are some of the best ways to get leads flowing through the door?
Mm, good question. So my opinion and the research that I've done on this, everyone needs to make sure that they've claimed and have optimized their Google business profile. I mean, that's number one. That
Yeah,
is as much, if not potentially more important than your website. The reason that I say that is because it's a Google product and Google trusts that product tremendously. M- They trust that
yeah,
more than they trust your website for sure. No question about it. And so
yeah,
if you've got content, if you're regularly updating your Google business profile, if you're regularly getting genuine reviews from customers, um, all of those things are going to lead to you being more trusted online. And that's across the web, not just on Google Business Profile, not just on the Map Pack, but everywhere online. And so what we're seeing is a critical importance for companies, small and large, to align almost exactly what's on their Google Business Profile with what's on their website.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that
your
consistency across the board, so Google know exactly who you are and what you're doing and what you're up to. And there's often just people miss things that are key in their Google profile, the business profile. What are some of the, because you're probably reviewing a whole bunch, what are some of the things that people miss that really they should think about adjusting or adding to their business profiles?
Yeah. So if you're able to put it in Google Business Profile, you should have it on your website. So what am I talking about? The
Right.
same phone number. The address has to match exactly. Writing out the word south as part of your street versus S period is not the same to Google. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
We know that it's the same thing, but Google is looking for exact match. Hours. I looked at an electrician. They're on the East Coast of United States, and they had 3 different sets of business hours between their Google Business Profile and 2 different locations on their website. And it's like,
Yeah.
at that point, you're trying to confuse Google. Like, why are
Yeah.
you doing this on purpose?
Well, they
So,
just can't trust it. They can't trust anything that or any of your information, and therefore they don't want to send people to you because it's all out of kilter. Which
right.
makes perfect sense. Yeah, yeah. The and so you mentioned posting to there fairly frequently. What are some of the ways people can update their profile?
You know, people don't see Google Business Profile like a social media, but they should. So, if you've got updates that you're regularly posting to social media once a week, twice a week, whatever that is, it
Yeah,
doesn't need to be every day, but you want to show Google that you're active and you're doing things in the business. And the best way to do that is to post weekly on Google Business Profile. It could be a screenshot of a review, something that simple. It could be posting about a water heater you installed or an air conditioning system you repaired. You know, what it is it needs to be relevant to your business, but you don't have to spend a ton of time trying to create, perfect content. You just need to put stuff out.
yeah. Well, you're probably producing the content maybe for social media. So, and
Yeah,
as you say, people don't think about it as social media, but it can function in a similar way. Publishing that info. Are there tools that you use to syndicate the same piece of information across platforms, or do you do it
I do.
manually?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no. Um, Once you start dealing with multiple companies, multiple platforms, it becomes pretty essential to start utilizing some of those tools. The
yeah,
one that I've worked with the most is actually Go High Level. And
okay.
Go High Level has so much that it can do, but the social media planner that you can use on Go High Level is actually very powerful. And you would pay other services for just that social planner, where Go High Level actually gives you a lot more if you want to use it that way. So,
Yeah. It's a full CRM and a whole bunch of other things. And so that you're on sell and resell that to people, or how does it work? Do
sure.
you?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't gone as far as starting to set up like SaaS products or reselling Go High Level at this point. It's more I'm using it for my clients to um, to publish content out to multiple platforms at once
Right.
instead of
Yeah.
having to go through all of them. And it does
Yeah.
a good job of giving you stats and feedback as well. So
Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. So it's a done for you service for these tradespeople are probably snowed under just getting the work done and running around. It's one thing off their plate and it's getting done properly.
yeah,
If you hire someone who knows what they're doing, and starts to learn about the nuance of your own business and so on. Um, do you think sometimes people find it hard to hire someone because they feel as though someone like yourself might not understand their business, um, and they find it hard to delegate those sorts of tasks? Or is it, what's that sort of transition time and handover time when people are and maybe a small business and they haven't really become familiar with handing on the marketing aspects?
Sure. No, there's definitely a lot of trust in that relationship that has to be, because, you are at that point representing the business for them. And that's a huge responsibility, you know. As an owner, we had hired several different agencies, and unfortunately, we would get frustrated after a period of time with either the performance or the results. And I think a lot of it had to do with communication, quite frankly. Um,
Yeah.
Similar to working with a residential air conditioning customer, um, we would not get the feedback frequently enough, and so it just kind of left us wondering. And unfortunately, our nature is to go negative when we don't know what's happening. And
Yeah.
yeah, there is definitely a lot of trust involved there. Um, I think for companies that are looking to grow, it's just a decision for them on what can I handle, what's my capacity for doing more, and is there a value to working with someone who's got the experience to do it, and then and hiring a professional to do it.
Yeah, got it, got it. And so there's the posting to the Google business profile and making sure it's aligned with everything else that you've got published through your website
Yeah.
and anywhere else, your social platforms, everything's consistent. Is there when's the right time to start leveraging pay per click, Google ads and the like? Is that
Yeah.
is that a good fit for most trades businesses, or are there some that it just doesn't work for?
Yeah, I would say that in any trade or business where customers are searching for those services online, Google pay per click is going to be a viable option. Um,
Yeah.
I work with one company where they're actually launching a new product, and this is not a product that's available on the market. So you can't advertise for it on Google because nobody knows to look
No.
for it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no one's searching for what they don't know about, for sure. That
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, pay per click can be very effective. It's also very dangerous because you can spend a lot of money on pay per click and not necessarily get any kind of results. So conversion tracking, setting that up properly, making sure that everything on your website, aligns with what you're advertising online. Because if Google sees that you're advertising for water heater repair and you happen to be sending them to a page that all it does is talk about electrical work, Google's going to actually charge you more money, or they're not going to send as many people to your site.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure
Yeah.
your signals are right.
Well, it's in everyone's best interest to make that landing page as targeted as possible to the ad. So they've read the ad, and the next message should be super aligned to precisely what that ad was. So it makes sense for people to take action. Do you usually use like a landing page for that scenario, or do you just make sure the homepage is aligned? What's the best strategy in your view of making sure those clicks convert into an inquiry?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So landing page is always going to be best. Optimized landing page is always going to be best. There are some instances where using the homepage might be as good of a better option. If the website is relatively new, um, you're going to want to give Google a higher performing page, or a page that's going to have a higher quality score, as opposed to something that is either never seen before or has no backlinks, and therefore the authority on that page may be lower. So most of the time you're going to want a landing page though.
Yeah. And so, what are some of the key things you think that really should be in a landing page to ensure you get the highest conversion possible?
It's really about messaging and clarity, making sure that if the customer clicked on that ad for HVAC services, that it's very clear to that customer that HVAC services are what you offer. Testimonials are also a key aspect to any landing page, because you don't want to assume that customers have read your reviews.
Yeah.
So making sure that those testimonials are there and they're prominent. I also really like sticky buttons and or phone numbers across the top. So as they scroll down, you make it nearly impossible for them to miss an opportunity to call or book an appointment, send you a message. So those are to me the top elements of any landing page.
Yeah, 100%. The call to action is obviously all the clarity and the messaging, but that call to action, so people do what you want them to do, phone or
Yeah.
or fill in the form or whatever it is. And I suppose the intent for the ad itself. So just thinking it through, so like an emergency style of work, so emergency plumber, for example, you've got a flood in your house because some pipe has burst. Well, the content and the message is going to be somewhat different because it's someone needs you right away, as
Yeah.
opposed to something that's more of a thoughtful approach where people might want a certain, style or something that's a little bit not so urgent, that's more
Sure.
thoughtful and maybe a higher ticket item. Um, Getting that balance in those scenarios. So the conversion rates, what are you typically seeing from a Google ad campaign for a local company in the trades? What's kind of the expectation people should sort of benchmark against?
Yeah, that is a tough question just because there are a lot of factors that surround, what you should expect for a conversion rate. Um, I was looking at one of our customers earlier this week, and they were up in the 20% range, and I'm like, whoa, this is good. I would like to see more of this. And is there anything we can do to improve on this conversion rate? But typically, the rates uh, are not that high from you know your impression to your click to an actual conversion. So
Yeah.
I think it would be. I don't know that I can give you a benchmark on that number. I would rely more on case by case, what they've seen in
Yeah,
the
for sure.
past and what we can get it improved to.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like to me sometimes the Google ads are it's so easy to make a loss if you don't get it right. But once you start to think about, I mean, if you can break even almost, and you think about the lifetime value of the customer as well,
Mm, mm.
if that's in fact there's ongoing service that you can provide, you get your foot in the door. There's all sorts of different ways to measure the success or failure of a campaign, and getting those things measured is really important. You manage a lot of these campaigns for clients, or do you manage it right through, or do you set them up and they manage it themselves? How do you go about it?
No, we handle the management for them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I mean that part of our structure is to make sure that that's all taken care of. I mean, we have customers that are asking like, "Well, can you set it up and then we'll just manage it after it's set up." It's like, well, that's
yeah,
the management is really where the work starts. Setting it up,
yeah,
just about anybody could set up an ad campaign. But if you're not understanding what changes need to be made or responding to um, what the traffic is doing appropriately, then you're just going to be wasting money at that point. So
yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. And I guess the management fee, if the campaign's too small, um, the cost
yeah, it doesn't make
is
sense. Yeah,
doesn't make sense. Yeah. So what do you feel is that kind of that tipping point where a budget is big enough to warrant hiring someone to do the management of that?
sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to spend over $2,500 a month on Google Ads, that's when it starts to make a lot more sense. If you're under that number, then you might be looking at LSA instead of Google Ads, which is a completely different avenue that most contractors can manage themselves if they choose to do so. And so, the LSA is definitely an important piece that is also, connected to your Google Business Profile, and your reviews on Google Business Profile display in LSA. And so that, kind of all pulls it back to how important your Google Business Profile is.
Yeah, 100%. And once you get to a budget of decent size, I mean, the additional the benefit of the outcome pays for the management fee itself. So that's the goal. So it makes practical sense once you've got a reasonable budget for these things. But I suppose to recap, one of the key things you should do as a priority, and everyone should do, is to get their Google business profile done right, and then they can scale it up and down if they need to with the ads. Make sure everything's aligned. What if it's been a great conversation, by the way, and if there's a question I've missed, what would that question be, and how would you answer it?
Well, we can open up a whole nother can of worms and talk about AI and kind of where things are headed. So another podcast.
That'd keep us here another half hour or an hour, maybe even longer if we wanted to, for sure. But briefly, what would you say to speak to that?
I mean, I think just being open to learning more about AI and playing with it. I know a number of people that I've talked to that are just kind of sitting on the fence and just kind of paying attention to what's happening, but not utilizing it themselves. And I think it's important for everyone to start diving in and see what the power of it is, and what it could potentially do for your business. Not only that, but just understanding, well, for instance, what do you think will happen to your business if your customer, you go out and give them a quote for a HVAC repair or HVAC replacement, either one. They take your proposal. They've gotten 2 other proposals, and then they dump them into chat and say, which of these proposals should I choose? How is this proposal going to fare? I mean, now all of a sudden you have intelligent software reading through all the legal language that no one ever reads. So that 6-page proposal just got digested and summarized in 10 seconds. And what's going to happen when customers start leveraging AI to make those types of decisions? How is your business going to fare? And so those are some of the other questions that are interesting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. It's making it really easier to compare apples for apples, so to speak, and see where there's differences in proposals. I think it's always been the challenge with, well, probably most industries, but in the marketing space, because the way in which one company goes about things might be completely different to the next, and it's been incredibly difficult to compare quote to quote. But as you say, with the tools and tech these days, it's changing a lot. It's a great conversation today, Aaron. How can people find out more about what you're up to, or how can they connect if they wish to do so?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for asking, and I also appreciate the conversation. So my website is Sequoia GEO, and GEO is that generative engine optimization, kind of where we're headed. But that's my website. I'm also very active on Facebook. I have done 2 workshops now that users can find on Facebook. One on generating more 5-star reviews, which is critical for your business. And then the other one on actually optimizing your Google Business Profile. So they can check those out through either through my website or through my Facebook.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to put those links in the show notes so people can find them nice and easy. And thanks again, Aaron. It's been great having you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Built, Trusted, Chosen. Brought to you by Uplift 360. Visit uplift360.com.au.